And welcome back to Clutch Time. Today we are continuing our team previews, and today's team that we're going to take a look at is USC. And so this is something that we're going to continue to do on the show as we continue to build momentum up here towards this upcoming season. And so let's go ahead and let's jump into it. So I think that the key around USC is going to be keeping the momentum rolling from last season, because this is a team that certainly made some noise. They became a ranked team, and I think that they were a team at times that did, push UCLA. And so now UCLA, clearly they do not have their stars, and I do think that this conference is a bit wide open, and I think that the door could be open for USC. And so immediately when I look at USC and their roster here, so you're looking at a team that has 5 forwards, they have 2 centers, and they have 5 guards. And so I think that this is something that really fits the type of play style that Coach Eric Musselman wants to run. Let's start defensively with what USC wants to do, because they like to go out there and they like to run a half-court press. And so generally when I think of teams that go into the half-court press, that shows me a team that wants to throw multiple bodies at you, and they want to try to get you into mistakes. They want to try to wear you down, because they know that even if you do, get across that half court line and things like that, mentally you've got the speed back up because the shot clock has wound down. And so that obviously impacts, just when you get into your offense and things like that. And when you have to go from, just rushing like that to trying to get the best quality shot, you can get into mistakes, and really that can open things up for USC offensively. And so that's how their defense can play into their offense. And then when you look at their offense, this is a team that is going to rely on balanced scoring. And so I think that that is going to be interesting when you look at just the type of things that these players can do on the offensive end, which we're going to talk about that in a moment. So an interesting play style with USC, but I do think that the door is open for them to make some noise. And so the next thing, just talking about USC and just the players that I think that they're going to rely on, and then players here that I think that you definitely want to watch that are coming into USC. Let's go ahead and let's start with a freshman here in Brian Garcia. And so Brian Garcia, to me, is a player that I do think that USC is going to have to rely on, because at 6'9", I think that he's a player that they are going to need, especially just on the interior in the post. And so you get a guy that has really a versatile skill set, as far as his player, profile, and just what the scouts say about him. And he's got a soft touch around the rim. And I think that USC is really going to need that interior presence. And then also, too, you can tell that this is the direction that USC wanted to go with this year, as far as just being able to attack teams inside, because they also, too, are bringing in another freshman in Willerich Krause. And so he's a stretch big, consistent rebounder, and an efficient scorer. And so this team is telling you that they want to be able to go ahead and slow the game down and just punish teams inside if they can on the interior. And so both of these players coming in at 6'9". You have Garcia at 196, and then you have Krause a little bit bigger at 237. But I think that both of these players are going to need to get a bit stronger. I think that that can be clearly said across the board for most freshmen coming in, but expect for them to be somebody that is going to be on the national radar, and somebody that USC is going to depend on early. And so the next thing with USC and why they could be set up to really have some momentum going into this season is because they are returning some players that really have been some solid contributors. In fact, I think that when you look at USC and for this upcoming season, a lot of the players that are going to contribute at a high level for them are just sophomores. And so, let's start with Quintel Patterson. And so at 5'10", he's a guy that actually, he's a senior. So he's a senior at 5'10", a guard, but he's going to be a guy that they are going to need to contribute at a high level, because he's the team captain, coming in 12.4 points per game, 4.1 assists. And then also, too, you're looking at the fact that this guy can get to the rim. So he's a terrific athlete as far as finishing, actually led the team in dunks and things like that. And he is shifty, speedy. And so because of that, he he's going to open up a lot of opportunities, for this USC team. Now, the one thing with Quintel Patterson is that he does struggle from the free throw line. Not the worst thing that I have seen from a player. In fact, I remember Jason Williams that used to play for Duke back in the day, and he struggled as a free throw shooter. Got a little bit better once he got into the pros or whatnot, but at 37.3%, you wonder when games get into the clutch, which that could possibly happen with USC. We're going to look a little bit more with the things that they need to correct. They're going to have to capitalize on that. But going back to the point, he's a guy that was here last year, and he actually is a senior. But, there's some other players that are just in year two that are going to have to step up here for them. And so another guy that comes to mind for me is J-Mo. And so J-Mo, he's a guy that's coming into his sophomore year. And this is a guy that I think is certainly going to be dependent on a lot for USC, a player that averaged 10.4 points a game and 6.6 rebounds a game. And this is a player that great athlete, terrific perimeter defender, and just good IQ. Now, he is extremely raw on the offensive end, but I like the fact that he plays with a lot of basketball IQ out there. And so I think that, with a guy that plays with that type of will and the basketball IQ that he has, you can make up for a lot of things like that. And what you love about J-Mo is that he's just a sophomore, but he is definitely going to be dependent on a lot, especially since, Quintel Patterson, is a senior. And this is a player that, he's going to be transitioning on. And I think that leadership role is probably going to play right into J-Mo's hands. And so these are two contributors coming back that certainly you're going to want to circle. The next player that I think definitely you should take a look at here, and this is a sophomore that I think is going to become a big contributor as well as J-Mo, is going to be Gabe Pope. And so Gabe Pope coming in at 11.8 points per game. And this guy is terrific as far as getting steals. So 1.8 steals. And so he actually led the team last season. And so defensively, they're going to need him. Remember at the top of this thing, I was talking about how they want to get you into this half court press or whatnot. And so Gabe Pope, he's going to be a guy that they're going to have to rely on to play the passing lanes and things like that, be able to close up some of these traps and stuff like that. And really, he's their best two-way player on the court. And so when we're talking about two-way players, I'm not saying the best player out of the entire team, but meaning he's the most consistent on both ends of the floor. And so he's going to be a guy that, he is definitely going to have to be counted on a lot for USC. And he's also a very good willing passer as well. So there's a lot of little things that he does that I definitely like about his game. And so, these are some of the players to watch for, with USC. And, just my final thoughts with USC and just some of the things that could really slow them down and that I wonder about is, number one, when you look at the guards that they have, they've only got one guard that is 6'6". Everybody else is below that height. And so I wonder, from a size advantage, is that going to be something that once teams do break that half court press, are teams going to be able to take advantage of that because they might have the size advantage on these guards? The next thing, too, for them that it really concerns me with USC, this is a team that only made 2.4 3-point shots a game. And so, when you get into games where teams want to just pick up the pace and things like that, like a team like USC, or not USC, but UCLA that did that last year, this is where you would struggle because you're going to lose the math battle. So think about Golden State in the SWBA and what they do, a 3-to-2 ratio there. So if they're hitting threes and you're only getting twos and then you go cold like that, this is where you would lose the math battle. So USC is going to have to try to figure out a way to get better offensively this season. And then lastly with them, or the last 2 points, the offensive rebounds have got to get better. So at 7.2 offensive rebounds, you need to give yourselves better chances as far as second chance opportunities. Teams that get the second chance opportunities, they generally score. Their percentages go up higher once you get the offensive rebound. And so they've got to do a better job there. And then the free throw percentage, I just talked about this with Quintel Patterson, who is your leader, shooting 37.3% is just not going to get it done. So this team has got to get better from there, because right now, the one guard that you have that does shoot it at a pretty good clip is at 82.4%. That's Sky Buckner-Williams. And he's actually the best free throw shooter on the team. And he really doesn't play an extensive role like that. And so this team across the board, you can pretty much maybe implore the hack a shack against them. And so that's not good, especially when you get into the clutch moments in games. And so those are the things that USC is going to have to clean up. And so you guys let me know in the comments, do you believe in USC? Do you think that USC is going to pick up where they left off? Again, I've just talked about these freshmen that I think are going to come in, and I think that they are going to be depended on heavily because this team is going to try to really punish you inside. And then, like I said, they've got to get the contributions that they got last season from these players that are returning, but they've got to take it up a notch. You got to be able to knock down the free throws, got to be able to rebound. And at some point, you cannot lose the math battle out there and exchange with teams a 3-to-2 ratio, because in the way the game is played now, you're just going to set yourself up for a loss there. So you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And by the way, before we jump out of here, I want to go ahead and give a plug here to SimWorld, because I know that the last video out there, we were asked about the merch here, which is available. And so if you guys want to check this out, you can head over to the revamped website here. So shout out to Air Jalen for taking care of business, and lots of coffee to stay up for this one. So we definitely appreciate them here at SimWorld. But if you go here to merch, and then you click that, that's going to take you over to where you can go ahead and you can shop for a couple of items. Notice this is the hat right here that I have on in today's video, and probably will be rocking this, as the show continues. But you can also click this shop merch button, and then that's going to take you to the entire store, guys, where you can go in. You can get, some of your merch from some of your players that maybe you support here in SimWorld. And then also, too, you can take a look here at the SW prep gear as well. So there is a lot of stuff that you guys can shop for on this platform. So you guys make sure that you head over to SimWorld Sports, you click on the merch button, and then that's going to take you right into where you need to go. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, look, see the game and be the game. I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.